Good evening. I'm Toshi Okada. Back to the Gundam lecture. Sorry we skipped a week. The pre-recorded part runs long today, about 40 minutes, so I'll keep this intro short. You're about to see our talk on Mobile Suit Gundam, Episode 11, Icelina, Afterlove. It's lecture number 22 in this series. We cover Icelina Afterlove in 3 parts, Part 1, Part 2, Finale. Thanks for sticking with us. This session was taped at a live event. We rented a big conference room at DMM's HQ, so I'm speaking with slides up on a large screen. In this first part, 1. Dig into the opening narration. Episode 11's narration and visuals are just masterful. First real look at the Zabis. In Garma's fate, we only heard Degwin dropped his staff. Just a hint, here we finally see Zeon's family dynamic. We've seen Dozle before, ordering Char around, but this time it's not military business. It's a drama about an aging father who's lost his youngest son, and the family around him. Think, a patriarch sunk in grief. The father is frail with age, while the eldest son, Giran, is eager to turn his brother's death into advantage. The episode captures that family gap. The main talk runs long, so I'll leave the intro here. Enjoy our lecture on Mobile Suit Gundam Ep11, Icelina Afterlove. Here we go. We've finally reached episode 11 in this series, Icelina Afterlove. First off, that title is brilliant. For a 1979 TV anime, no one would have picked a title like this. You'd expect Target, Amuro, or A Sorrowful Avenger, something along those lines. Normally they title it for Icelina's Revenge, or Amuro being hunted. Remember, Mobile Suit Gundam aired in the same era as shows like Mazinger Z. Back then, what passed for a groundbreaking subtitle was, well, it really was novel for the time, but in Space Battleship Yamato, the Dozle showdown was Decisive Battle 7-Color Fleet, or Earth, Yamato has returned. In that climate, the subtitle, Icelina, Afterlove, shifts the story's point of view to her as the protagonist. And not just Icelina, though her screen time is brief, the episode digs deep into Zeon's relationships as well. Afterlove can mean the aftermath of romance, of course. But note Icelina Eschenbach, the well-bred Earth girl first introduced in Garma's Fate. She's a New York-type mayor's daughter, with Eschenbach likely German descent. So, a wealthy, sheltered girl who once cried on the ground after her father struck her will, in this story, become someone who can take Zeon soldiers down with her. She turns into a killer. That's the weight carried by After in the title. Let's start with the narration. We get the subtitle card, Icelina, Afterlove. Before it, the usual, Universal Century 0079, Farthest from Earth. Narration plays, and then, after the card, another narration begins. Narration. Beyond the moon, dozens of space cities drift. This is Zeon, a space city-state ruled by the Zabi family, seeking to govern Earth by dictatorship. Narration. Inside those cylindrical structures lies human life. Each cylinder is over 6 kilometers across and more than 30 kilometers long, with artificial nature inside where people live just as on Earth. Narration. Now, Zeon Space Attack Force Lieutenant General Dozle Zabi It's all in present tense. Drift, is, there is, and Dozle Zabi returns. Not, returned, or, there was, all present tense. Using so much present tense in anime narration is rare. Listen for it. Most shows explain in past tense. Past tense sits easier on the ear. You instantly file it as background. Present tense keeps you on edge because you don't know where it will stop. It even says, space cities, floating beyond the moon. Not colonies or stations, but space cities. After people's living space exists, it continues with specs. The cylinder is over 6 kilometers in diameter. That word, Sunawachi, in other words, normally links clauses, but here it doesn't really connect that way. It's closer to Koden performance, like a storyteller pounding the desk. In short, it is strings of forceful phrasing, not strict grammar. Then we get our first depiction of Zeon's homeland. As I said in another lecture, when Amuro wonders, did that parent and child make it home? The camera push-in on White Base's window happens in steps. Same here. Tomino's multi-stage close-ups and montage. He builds meaning by stacking close-ups and arranging images in sequence. After the title call and Beyond the Moon line, they first show only the lunar surface. Again, with that line, the first image is just the moon's surface. This is Tomino's visual sense at work. Normally, Beyond the Moon would be staged as an over-the-moon shot. Like, over the rainbow, you'd picture passing over the top of the moon, or at least off to the side. He frames the moon's underside to make the image feel unstable. During that long line about ruling Earth, the camera just glides across the surface. Beyond the moon, you glimpse a square panel and small shapes bobbing. That panel is Zeon's solar energy receiver. It's a solar array, and you can spot tiny space cities floating nearby. So when he says dozens of space cities float here, you realize these are the people Amuro and the others are up against. The camera drops from the moon to the cities, pushes in, the cut changes, and at last a small ship comes into view. A little ship drifting there, like this. The ship stays put, while the background cities now slide from top to bottom. It's the reverse of that earlier upward pan across the moon. The far-off cities sweep downward. All of that carries the narration through. Beyond the Moon. This is Zeon. Now a huge space city fills the background behind that lone ship. Something massive edges into frame, the same shape as those distant cities, so at last the audience connects the dots. And it clicks with the line about cylindrical structures where people live. At over 6 kilometers in diameter, that giant cylinder fully enters the frame. Then on people live, just as on Earth, the cut flips to a head-on view of the ship we saw. So the camera has moved between the 6-kilometer colony and the ship to a frontal composition. From nearly front on, you see Dozle Zabi's slightly customized warship. That matches the last line. Dozle Zabi returns from the front. Focus on this edge of shadow here, see it? The shadow creeps over and finally shrouds the whole ship. What is that? The ship is entering the shadow of a gigantic space colony, like a massive station. This is the same technique you see in Rogue One, how they show a Star Destroyer or the Death Star. In Star Wars films, to show scale, they let a big ship drift into the shadow of something even bigger. For example, the massive Executor sliding into shadow, or the Death Star looming, scale by shadow. Tomino does the same, over 35 years before Rogue One, using a ship entering a larger shadow to convey immensity in space. After the line, Dozle returns from the front, the narration stops. All you hear is the ship. Nothing else. Next, the ship slowly enters what we'd call the colony's docking bay. Why highlight this cut? Because the drawing choice is bold. They crush the shadows to pure black. It makes the ship's shape hard to read, but in space, that's how things actually look. Lit areas show texture and detail. Shadows go pitch black. Mobile Suit Gundam tried this from episode 1. But it's hard for kids to read. If you don't tint the dark areas, they just can't parse it. Crushing shadows to black is natural in space, but even Tomino hesitated to go all in. At last in episode 11 he does it. After so much time on Earth, returning to space lets him deliberately drown areas in black. Again, there's a silent stretch. After Dozle returns, the voice cuts off and the pictures do the work. So viewers think, if he's returning, then Dozle must be on this ship, and their attention locks onto it. We saw the ship tiny beyond the moon, then small in front of the colony cluster. Then, before the space city, it eases into the colony's shadow and heads for the docking bay. Only after that do we finally get a close-up. That's Tomino's multi-step zoom. He loves slow, incremental push-ins. In the next cut, the camera edges toward the man on the bridge we only glimpsed before. Still no dialogue. Only in the next cut does Dozle Zabi fill the frame. In extreme close-up, he mutters, with resentment, Dozle Zabi, HMPH. It's exactly like 6 months ago. Not a single reinforcement. From the narration cue to his return, they keep building and building. The ship glides into dock, the camera isolates parts of it. Camera reaches the bridge, lands on a frontal close-up, and he complains. That one line, same as 6 months ago, no reinforcement, is great writing. It tells you who Dozle is and where he stands. Why bring this up? Because Gundam characters have been read in wildly different ways since the TV run. Later came manga, movies, games, and Yasuhiko's The Origin. Lots of creators adding their own takes. Most still view them through a similar lens. For example, people see Dozle as indulgent with family, a decent soldier but ultimately not that impressive. And Dozle Zabi, the eldest, as razor sharp. That's the common take. Rewatching episode 11, I found a different, more interesting angle. That line means Dozle alone is thinking, what if the Federation attacks? Reinforcement is needed, or they can't hold if the Federation comes. No one else thinks so, because Zeon has won for half a year. They've pushed into Earth, maybe not to total surrender, but the war is going their way. Climbing from Earth costs massive fuel, so they assume the Federation won't come up to strike Zeon. Regular folks can be complacent, sure, but a soldier doesn't think like that. Only aiming to win is amateurish. If you reinforce, the Federation will look and say, their defenses are too tight. An attack now is pointless, and give up. Once the Federation officers give up, peace comes closer, surrender talks go smoother. That kind of political soldier thinking, only Dozle has it. He's urged reinforcement all along, but resources keep getting funneled into new weapons instead. Into offense-only thinking, attacking Earth, building new mobile suits. That's his gripe. I consider Dozle a very capable officer. Giran and Icelina may be generals, but they're fake soldiers. Giran loves operations. Icelina loves intrigue. Only Dozle, among the Zabis, thinks like a straight military man. So if Dozle had survived, he later dies at Solomon, Zeon might not have lost. That's my little fantasy. It's like those Sengoku what-ifs. What if Nobunaga hadn't died at Honnoji? We ask it because we think Nobunaga was extraordinary. So we imagine, if he hadn't died, or if he reincarnated elsewhere. Likewise, if Dozle hadn't died in that battle, peace talks likely would have taken a different shape, and he wouldn't have lured the Federation fleet all the way to Abawakua near Zeon's homeland to fight head-on. That was folly. I see Solomon as Gundam's Honnoji. Imagine a world where Garma is supreme leader and Dozle is the general. That's interesting. Also, Garma is badly underrated. Because Char calls him a fool and pampered boy, fans follow that, but only 3 deaths in Gundam spark vows of revenge from comrades, Ramba Ral, Garma, and Matilda. Which means, to those around them, all 3 commanded respect. Not viewer popularity. Viewers rate Ramba Ral high. With Matilda, many ask, why fuss? In the Federation, Matilda Asian, under General Revel, runs a supply unit across the front with only her own skill. That's insanely risky. She's essentially the Federation's answer to Ramba Ral, a talent of that caliber. Fans often miss that. I think that, too, is a lens fans created after the TV run. It's not just, Amuro's first crush died, so everyone's sad, and Ramba Ral is the man's man. That's not the point. The fact that only those 3 inspired comrades to fight for revenge means they were rated that highly by people around them, and Tomino directs it that way. Yet Garma's stock is weirdly low. I think Yasuhiko's manga has misled people. Sometimes I feel like drawing a fanzine about a world where Garma and Dozle survive. Thanks for watching. Free part ends here. That was already over 20 minutes, and there's about 20 more to go, so let's grab coffee and take a break. Watching that 2-year-old recording surprised me. I'd gotten really fat, right? The posture and outfit didn't help either. Yeah, pretty fat. Laughs. Maybe about the same as now. I slimmed down a bit after that, and bounced back. I just talked for over 10 minutes on the opening narration and 1 Dozle line. No wonder Icelina Afterlove turned into a 3-part 90-minute arc.